I'm Mary Cochran, currently serving this congregation as the worship committee. Thank you for being here with us, whether you're joining us in the pews or online. Announcements. We have some good news from our partners at Texas UUJM and Texas Impact. They are reporting that several harmful bills either are dead or seem to be dead in the legislature for this session. This includes bills that would have criminalized women for having an abortion, required the name on your birth certificate to match the name on your ID for voting purposes, forced hospitals to ask for and document immigration status. In addition, as in the last session, many anti-transgender bills were introduced, and the vast majority of them failed to continue. We are grateful to our partners for their work. We are grateful to our legislators for their work to fight for these would-be miscarriages of justice. And we are grateful for all of you who called your legislators or wrote letters or took action to let them know that we are watching and we care. Okay, Lunch Bunch today will be at Craft Pita, which is at 1920 Fountain View. This is just an informal gathering after the service for anyone who'd like to get together and have lunch. All are welcome to join us, including visitors, in fact, especially visitors. Between the service and Lunch Bunch, we share coffee and conversation in our gathering place just outside the sanctuary. And each Sunday, our lay pastoral ministry team, we call them the LPMT, some of them are here in the sanctuary. They have yellow name tags. If you have any issues with today's program, positive or negative, please talk to one of the LPMT members about that. Any visitors who are here with us today in person, if you would like more information about Emerson or would like us to have more information about you, please fill out the yellow card you'll find in the pew back in front of you and drop it in one of the offering baskets. We'll put you on our mailing list and you will get our twice weekly email. Our regular minister, Reverend Ed Prue, is away this week. We have a special guest speaker, Cherry Steinwender. Ms. Steinwender is co-executive director and co-founder of the Center for the Healing of Racism. Her CV is too long for me to read it to you, but I will note that among her most cherished awards, Ms. Steinwender received the 2013 Gandhi King Ikeda, A Legacy of Building Peace Award, which is given to a person who works to further the ideal of world peace, and the 2013 Diversity Champion Award. Ms. Steinwender approached us and asked if she could do today's program, rather than the other way around, because as you may know, it is the 5th anniversary of the murder of Houstonian George Floyd. And now, please enjoy our prelude.
As we gather in community, we look within ourselves and to each other for strength, restoration, and inspiration, so that as we journey together, we catch the spark of the eternal Spirit, and from that spark, we light our chalice flame. Lighting the chalice flame symbolizes to all that the spirit of our congregation is strong, and that our will to transform ourselves and the world is also strong. We light the flame with gratitude. We light the flame in memory of all who have gone before, in honor of all who are here now, and with joy for all who are yet to come. As Leo Vandermeulen, did I say that right? Yes. Lights our chalice flame here in the sanctuary, I invite those of you joining us from home to light a candle or a chalice of your own. When we light our chalice, we hear words of timeless wisdom to help center us for our time together. For the month of May, our chalice lighting words come from Ringo Starr. Sir Richard Starkey, known publicly as Ringo Starr, is an English drummer and former member of the Beatles. He is 84 years old, and these words come from his 2025 album and are entitled, "Look Up." Please join me in reading these words together as they appear on the screen. Above your head where the music plays, there's a light that shines in the darkest days. There's a burning fire leading through the haze. Look up. As we work to create beloved community, we welcome all who would join us in building a better world with more love, more justice, more peace. We welcome all who would join us in growing mind, heart, and spirit. We welcome all who would join us in tearing down systems of oppression of all kinds. We welcome all who would join their purposes to ours in a loving spirit of right relationship. Please join me in our welcoming. The words are on the screen. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, wherever you find yourself on your life's journey, whichever your pronouns, whether you've walked in or rolled in or dialed in, whomever you love, you are welcome here. And now we have our presentation of This Week in Unitarian Universalist History with Richard Cummins.
Thank you, Julia. From Frank Schulman's book, This Day in UU History, on this very day, May 25th, in 1803, Ralph Waldo Emerson, our namesake, was born in Boston. Born into a family of ministers, Waldo, as he was called, became minister of Second Church, Unitarian, in Boston, his father having been minister of First Church in Boston. Not satisfied as a minister, Emerson resigned after 3 years. After the sudden death of his wife in 1832, he went to Europe, where he met the Romantic poets, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, William Wordsworth, and Thomas Carlyle, who influenced him greatly. When Emerson returned to America, he devoted his time to writing and moved to Concord, which remained his home for the rest of his life. He became a prominent lecturer, poet, and essayist, combining his family's traditional religious values with visions from the English Romantics. His first book, Nature, appeared in 1836, the same year the Transcendental Club gathered in Concord. He is best known for his essays, lectures, and addresses, such as Self-Reliance, The American Scholar, Divinity School Address at Harvard in 1838, and as a transcendentalist philosopher. He died on April 27th in 1882. To you, Mary.
Our opening words today come from Nelson Mandela, born in 1918. He was a South African anti-apartheid activist and politician who served as the first president of South Africa from 1994 to 1999. He was the country's first black head of state and the first elected in a fully representative democratic election. His government focused on dismantling the legacy of apartheid. He said, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite." And now, with our chalices lit and our hearts and minds centered, we invite you to join your voices with ours in celebration by singing a hymn. You may stand if you're comfortable doing so, or stay seated, but please help us raise our voices and sing. Our opening hymn in your gray hymnal is number 170, "We Are a Gentle, Angry People," verses 1, 2, 4, and 6.
Emerson collects an offering each week, like many other communities of faith, but our offering is not for our church, which is supported by the annual pledges of our members. We collect our Sunday offering to give to others because we know that giving is both a transformative spiritual act and an important way to live our values. 75% of today's offering will go to today's Share the Plate recipient, the Center for the Healing of Racism. The Center for Healing of Racism believes that the human race is essentially one, and that racism is a learned behavior that can be unlearned. Their goal is to open up a dialogue that will educate people, which is one of the most powerful tools to fight prejudice. They believe that by working together, we can heal racism and bring positivity and empowerment to every race. The remaining 25% of today's offering will go to Interfaith Ministries Meals on Wheels, which provides thousands of meals every day to Houston's homebound seniors. You can go to our webpage for online giving, put cash or a check in our offering basket, or mail a check to the church. During the offering music, children who want to attend their RE class may follow their teachers to the classrooms.
words for our second reading today are from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whom I believe needs no introduction. These words come from Facing the Challenge of a New Age, the address delivered at the first annual Institute on Nonviolence and Social Change on December 3rd, 1956. But in the end is reconciliation. The end is redemption. The end is creation of the beloved community. It is this type of spirit and this type of love that transform oppressors into friends. It is this type of understanding goodwill that will transform the deep gloom of the old age into the exuberant gladness of the new age. It is this love which will bring miracles in the hearts of men. And now I welcome Cherry to give today's program.
Good morning, all. Good morning. It is my pleasure to return to you. And the reason that I use return, because I was here conducting programs in the mid-90s. That doesn't mean I'm old. It just means I get around. And I've always been told if you start off with something to make people laugh, to really get their attention. So I'm really going to make you laugh now. The outfit that I'm wearing this morning is my Unitarian preaching outfit. The last time I wore this outfit was in Boca Raton, Florida, where I was asked to give the sermon at a Unitarian church. And I really wanted to do a good job, but I wanted to look good doing it. And so this is my Unitarian preaching outfit. Thank you. I am really grateful for today. And the reason that I am really, truly grateful to you, because you opened up your hearts and your arms to allow me to keep my commitment and my promise I made 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I was sitting in my den watching television, and I watched a person being lynched, a modern-day lynching, right in front of me in my home. Once you ever see something like that, you will never forget it. I made a commitment to myself that May the 25th of every year, I will remember, and I will call others to remember with me. Because it fell on a Sunday, my office is not open on Sunday, so I could not hold the program in my office today. And I reached out to you, and you helped me keep that promise I made to myself to no one else. Last year, I noticed how quiet this country was. You didn't even hear the name George Floyd, hardly at all in 2024. So the program I created, which was held in my office, was called Make Some Noise for George Floyd. And I invited spoken word artists, musicians, and others with talents that I don't have to come into the office to make noise for George Floyd. In 2023, in the evening at the First Unitarian Church on Fannin, we had a reception with food and everything else. We fed people that year. So I just want to let you know, I'm not doing this because it's the 5th anniversary like everybody else is doing all across this country. And to be able to do this, I invited, and this person is not on the stage, but I'm just going to ask him to stand up. as I call his name, a teenager, Omari Allen. Thank you. Thank you so much for showing up. And I really want you to know how I met him. I was at University of Houston downtown campus to see and hear Angela Davis. And you know how the Creator have a way of handling us. Well, the Creator handled me very well because he put me right next to him on the front row at the University of Houston. And because I talked to everybody, I just started talking to him, and I told him what I would be doing on May the 25th. And he told me a little bit about himself, and I said, well, would you like to come and do this with me? Omari said yes, and he showed up. So I could have just sit there, ignore the young man, but I don't do that. That's not who I am. The next person that I invited to be with you, Stephen Cherry, Professor Dr. Stephen Cherry from the University of Houston downtown, Clear Lake. And by the way, Omari's mother is a professor and a doctor at University of Houston downtown. Stephen came by my office over 20 years ago because he wanted to interview me for his dissertation. He interviewed me, and we've been together ever since, over 20 years. So whenever I need someone to stand up, stand by my side, help me deliver the message, Stephen is always there. So I want you to have the opportunity to hear from Stephen, and then he will turn it back to me. Thank you so very much for allowing us to be here.
Good morning, y'all. Cherry would tell you, and I was surprised she didn't say it this morning, but if we had gotten married, she would be Cherry, right? Which I kind of like the sound of that, right? You know, it's my pleasure and my pain to be with y'all this morning, right? When Cherry asked me to be here, I immediately said yes, right? And for me, this moment and reflecting on what happened and what it meant to me, George Floyd's death was my Emmett Till moment, okay? I wasn't alive when Emmett Till was lynched, right? But there's a huge difference. When Emmett Till was lynched, when I learned about it, which I had to wait, by the way, till I was in college because it was not taught to me in public school. So let's be clear about that as Mary's talking about what's happening in the legislative cycle right now, right? I had to find this out in college, right? And I learned about his horrendous death. And I learned about the courage of his mother to open that casket so that everybody saw his body and exactly what happened to him. And as she said, so the world can see what they did to my baby, right? I learned about that. It moved me, but it moved me intellectually. It hurt, but I didn't viscerally experience it. George Floyd, I did. We were all home because of COVID-19. Just to paint the scene for y'all, I'm teaching college classes in the study. My wife is teaching kindergarten in one room. My wife is in the back with our dog right now. My youngest, my daughter, was taking high school classes in another room, and my son was a college student in another room. Education Central, right? Much going on that day. Class ends, I sit down, have a little bit of a snack before the next class begins, and I turn on the TV, and what do I witness? Right? I witnessed, as Cherry said, a lynching. And that moment second after second, waiting for something to stop, waiting for it to end, minute after minute after minute, over 9 minutes, and it did not stop, right? The reason why I say it was an Emmett Till moment for me is because this is what awakened, not just for me, but for this country, an awareness that something is wrong. Justice was not served that day. Something was painfully wrong. And so instead of looking at statistics, which I do in my classes, right? Instead of looking at the numbers and saying, okay, this is a pattern, that this is something that's happening, this is something that we should address, it was made human. We watched that something was painfully wrong. And the rest of the country realized something needs to be done. And I know we have a lot to get to today, and as a professor, I'm watching the clock over here, and I know that it's dangerous to give me the mic because I'm just going to keep talking and talking and talking. But the lesson of that moment, Cherry asked me, what did it mean to you? What did it mean to your students? It completely destroyed my classes for the rest of the semester. Because the students didn't know what to do. The students didn't know what to say. How did we get here? So when I talked about Emmett Till, all of a sudden, this historical lynching that they read about had new meaning and new light because they watched it. And what happened in this country? People went to the streets and demanded justice. And what I would leave you with this morning is, as we're looking at the legislation, not just here in Texas, but in the country, remembering George Floyd is remembering, as Cherry always says, as we do programming all over the country and all over the world, there is a lot of work to be done. And remembering him and remembering the pain is one thing, and doing something about it is something else. So I will remind you, you don't have to be in the streets, but it is your obligation as a human being to witness that justice needs to be served, and that George Floyd is not alone, and that we cannot silence what happened to him and what has happened to others, and we cannot be silenced in the effort to move forward for justice in this country. Thank you.
And now I will call Amari Allen to the mic. And I think you're really going to be surprised from the voice, the heart, and the soul of a very young man as he recite a poem he wrote, Ask Me How I Felt. And if you look at him, you know 5 years ago, he was very young. But ask me how I felt. Amari Allen.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Amari Allen. I am a rising senior at Lamar High School. I wanted to start off by saying thank you to Dr. Cherry for inviting me for today. Sitting next to her was probably one of the most influential things I've done in my life. She is such an influential person who spoke so much life inside of me, and I will be forever grateful for that. As she said, I'll be performing my poem titled, If You Ask Me How I Felt. Happy. It was another regular day. I had been playing my game, as most teens do. No care for school, because COVID has stripped me of that too. Joy. I was overfilled with. Spring break was now longer than ever, not consumed by work that seemed to last forever. Ecstatic. The doorbell rang with goods I had to try. Ideas stirred like rising dough, and time was flying by. The house was filled with peaceful sounds. I baked with calm delight. Each muffin felt like love returned. Then my mom paused, her face not right. Exhausted, my mother met my gaze and gently told me to try. But every time she sets that tone, my heart prepares to cry. Try, she said. Her voice was thin. The weight too much to discuss. I saw the sorrow in her face. They've taken another one of us. Hurt. My fists were shaking at my side, eyes filled with silent grief. My chest grew tight, my vision blurred. I'm so hurt, I can't breathe. I can't breathe, and justice feels so far to see. He called for help, they took his life. Now sorrow walks beside the free. Infuriated. I denied the law that taught us to obey. They said the law would stand for all, but not for those like me today. Awake. I'm up at night praying to God, why is our world so cruel, so evil? I didn't hear an answer. Maybe I'm confused by all these people angry. I'm angry, not because the internet told me to be, but because the pain is ours to feel. Another black man's final breath is treated like it's no big deal. Confused. How am I guilty before I move? My skin screams dangerous to the eyes, not for what I've done, but for what they fear. I am now another man the system denies. 5. At 5 years old, my mother told me the world would judge you based off of the color of your skin. A mother who was born with the sun aches for the day their child's life comes to an end. Empowered, not by hate, not by rage, but by a burning light, to shift our world with every breath and write our future right. I speak with power, not with fear, because I know my place. The world may try to draw their lines, but I will set the pace. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I can't wait to go in the archives and hear it again from the comfort of my bed. Thank you. 9:29. 9 minutes and 29 seconds. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. It's very difficult, as Stephen even acknowledged, to watch a murder in progress. 9 minutes and 29 seconds. The world watched, and it propelled the world to the streets. Countries that did not speak English. And I'm very well aware of this because my husband is Austrian, and even in his country, which is not an English-speaking country, where I couldn't even speak to my mother-in-law because I spoke no German. They were carrying signs that said, George Floyd. They were carrying signs in Asian countries. They were carrying signs and took to the street all over the world because human beings knew deep in their souls that this was wrong. In the United States, it reawakened the civil rights struggles that many of in this room remembered when we walked, when we were led by Dr. Martin Luther King, because we were marching for justice. The people once again marched for justice. And in fact, I had no rest whatsoever because I was contacted by people all over the world. They wanted to interview me. They wanted to get my feelings and my thoughts about what happened. I was in my home because of COVID and constantly on Zoom, one interview after another. Because of that one act, it shook the world. But now, we were told to stay home. We were told if you go out, wear a mask. And all of a sudden, they arranged to have a big rally in front of City Hall in Houston, Texas, where 62,000 people showed up. And I thought about COVID. I thought about the possibility of being with so many people at a time where this pandemic was taking out people left and right. And because of my age, I'm in a high-risk group. But I said, I'm sorry. I have to go. So what I did, I took Clorox, and I kind of wiped my body down with Clorox. Probably put some Vicks salve in my nose. You know, I was getting ready for battle. And I showed up with 62,000 people. I had the opportunity to see people showing up with all sorts of signs, with such meaningful words. But the one that I will never forget is the one that said, silence is violence. And we have been committing violence in this country on a daily because we are unwilling to break the code of silence. I've been watching television, and I've been watching people talking about George Floyd, because after all this, you know, one of those milestone years, 5 years, 10 years, y'all get ready, you're going to have another big hoopla. What's going to happen between 5 and 10? Well, I know what I will be doing. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to wait for a milestone year. And looking and reading many things to know that George Floyd is a Houstonian. It's our native son. To read in the paper, one of the mirrors that's here in Houston, they're getting ready or they've already destroyed it, and how that's bringing about a lot of mixed feelings among the community. And as I said, I don't know if it's already been taken down, destroyed, to put something else up. But that's one of the things I love when I go to Europe. I could walk around and see things that's hundreds and hundreds of years old. But we have a problem. We really have a problem with old things. And that's why so many people may have a problem with me. I'm an old thing. I read a column written by Joy Sewing in the Chronicle, and I thought it was so important to share it today. And Joy Sewing, she's a news columnist for the Chronicle, and in fact, on the June 21, when we have our 32nd Juneteenth Ally Award barbecue luncheon, she will be one of the recipients of the Ally Award for what she's been doing. And we've also been able to bring people from all across this country. One of the most meaningful ones was last year when we brought a Japanese American from California, because there's a group of Japanese Americans that's fighting for reparations for people of African descent. And I'll never forget what the man said in his acceptance speech. We know how to get reparations because we've done it. So Joy, part of her column she wrote, I don't feel like I want to cover Floyd's funeral in Houston and spend the next few years after his death peeling back the nation's scab over racism and hate. I wrote about inequality, not just for Black people, but for all people of color and women. I also saw the light in our nation, as many people did. It felt like we could be united. 5 years later, it's a much different place. We are witnessing our nation's leaders amass power using overt racism and fear as a means to get there. The hate that lurked in our shadows is now in full view. What I now understand is that we cannot dismantle this darkness from our cultural consciousness. It's so deeply in our roots. It's so deeply in our roots. That's why part of the work that the Center's been doing for 36 years is to get people to go deep down inside of their heart, to begin to look at the ways that we have been conditioned into separatism, the ways that we have been conditioned into hate, the ways that we have been conditioned. And as Martin Luther King said, we hate each other and we fear each other because we don't know each other, because we have been separated from each other. That is something that each and every one of us can do, is to break the walls of separation. See, I brought Stephen here, didn't I? I told you about my German-speaking, white, blonde, blue-eyed husband. I didn't tell you about all of the Asian women that called me mother, as well as the Latin American, because I refuse to be separated from you. I refuse to be separated. And in closing, I would like to read a poem as a mother. I know what it is to lose a child. My first boy only lived an hour and a half, and he was buried while I was in the hospital. My second son only lived 4 years and 7 months. So I know what it is to lose a son. I know what it is to be a mother. I didn't have any other children after that for fear that I may lose another child. So as a mother, I thought about George Floyd's mother. And at the time, I didn't know that she wasn't alive. The research showed that she died before his death. And so, her name, Lacinia, and so this is a message from Lacinia, the mother of George Floyd. Shh! 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 Can't you hear? Can't you hear the words? Mama, mama, mama. My son George is calling me. From the window in heaven on high, I watched as they lynched my firstborn child. 9 minutes, 29 seconds. A racist cop took his life with his knee. All he could do was call for me. In a minute, 2 minutes, count to 9, 29 and some, it would have been quicker to do it with the gun. Mama, mama, mama. At first, the cries were loud, witnessed by a large crowd, while the other officers just stood around. Is this what they call stand your ground? I have been waiting for you since 2018, greeting other mothers' sons, but most of them entered heaven by a bullet fired by a gun. It would take quite a while to list all of the tears I have heard from other mothers' cries. My name is Lucinia, was tattooed on his stomach as a show of love and pride. What would the cops tattoo on their bodies to show the world the hate that drives? At least your act told the world that racism and people of color have been saying was not a lie. So now, I am holding George in my arms. I cannot answer the question, why? George Floyd's little daughter said to the world that her father was destined to do something great, that he would change the world. But it was not done while he was alive. It was done by his death. 9 minutes, 29 seconds. As I continue to remember that day, I want you to join with me every year. And we don't have to be together. But I want you to think about that day, May 25th, each year. Marvin Gaye wrote a song. I think it was in 2017, but don't quote me on that. And that song kept coming back as I was trying to put this program together. And looking at everything that's happening around the world, I thought it would be fitting to end this today asking ourselves the question, what's going on? So as you leave here, I want you to take the words of that song with you. And for the next day, week, month, years, I want you to continue to ask yourself what's going on. What is going on? And in doing so, was not part of the program, but I have to acknowledge this since I heard about it this morning. There was a whole program on television this morning dedicated to the crisis, the epidemic crisis in this country of our young people. That our young people are in crisis due to loneliness. And this loneliness is causing anxiety. And one of the major reasons for our young people committing suicide because of loneliness is anxiety is that device that they hold in their hands. I cannot wait to get the book that was written about this called Together. I can't remember the name of the author, but I want you to hold our young people in your arms. I want to hold you, Amari, as you think about what's going on. Thank you so much for allowing us to be with you today. And I really look forward to returning.